All right, ladies and gentlemen, final lecture. A few key things. Here's the rubric for your AP grade. Again, if you guys were curious about your scores, so if you guys were curious about how you guys did, most of you got 80% or higher, which is good. If you scored a little bit less than that, that's okay. There's always room for improvement and rewriting, but many of you guys are doing well. So if you guys could do well, if you guys could get a 6 or 7 on DBQ, you guys would kill it. But I'll show you guys those scores later. In any case, we talked about the election in 1984 last time. Reagan got reelected. And we also talked about the Challenger space shuttle exploding, right? We talked about that as well. We talked about me being born, so we talked about that as well. Then we got to foreign policy. So Reagan's foreign policy is what we got to. And did we start talking about SDI? Okay, so Strategic Defense Initiative. Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI, was a space-based laser defense system. It's a missile shield, but it's a space-based laser defense system. The basic idea is we were going to use lasers to shoot what? Nuclear missiles from Russia. So it's a space-based missile defense system designed to protect America from Russian nuclear missiles. The idea was if the Russians shot nuclear missiles at us, we could use lasers that would shoot from somewhere on Earth, bounce them off satellites, and then hit missiles with them. So this is like 1988. Do we have this technology today? No. We still don't. No way. Are you kidding me? No. You know how much energy would be required to create a laser and then magnify it and make sure it's hitting a missile at that speed? It's going, what, 5,000 miles per hour? We don't have this technology yet. We're getting close to it, but it's not super accurate. But still, space-based laser technology. So it's argued or considered that it's likely that Reagan was inspired by Star Wars. Hence, the nickname for SDI, Star Wars. The other nickname for SDI is, in fact, Star Wars program. So make sure you guys are familiar with the movie or the title, the Star Wars program. But you're like, did you just watch Star Wars, Mr. President? Yes, I did. And we should do that. Do what? The laser thing, the Star Wars thing. What are you talking about? The lasers. We should do that. We don't have that kind of technology, Mr. President. No, I'm sure we can figure it out. We haven't yet. There would be a video here, but it doesn't work, and here it doesn't work. Anyway, so by creating a missile defense and making the Soviet missiles potentially unable to hit us, is that going to increase or decrease tensions between America and the Soviets? Increase tensions, because are the Soviets going to be upset? Yeah. Are the Soviets going to feel threatened now that their missiles won't hit them? So they're kind of upset here. So in any case, Reagan then gives the famous evil empire speech, where he says the Soviet Union is an evil empire. And the world according to Reagan. So again, is this increasing or decreasing tensions? Increasing. Reagan wanted to have the persona of being a communist fighter. He wanted the reputation of being a communist fighter, so he wanted to be aggressive to Soviet Union. So he was like, you're evil, we should use space-based lasers to defeat you. All very Star Wars-ish, it seems like. Well, Russia was changing at the same time, too. And one of the major changes was that the Soviet Union eventually elected Mikhail Gorbachev to be the next president of the Soviet Union. Let me be clear, this is not the president of Russia, this is the president of the Soviet Union. There are different, okay? Because the Soviet Union includes all countries, including Russia. Does that make sense? Russia being the major part. But there is a president of Russia and a president of the Soviet Union at this time. Does that make sense to everyone? At this time. Today, not anymore. Today there's just a president of Russia. But at this time, there was a president both of Russia and of the Soviet Union. There was already Russia. It was part of the Soviet Union. It was the main part of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union pretty much included the Eastern Bloc, the Soviet states, that kind of thing. In any case, Mikhail Gorbachev was a game changer because he actually wanted to end the Cold War. On Russia's side, no less. And he believed in two things: glasnost and perestroika, which are two Russian terms, glasnost and perestroika. Glasnost, again, both spelled here, glasnost and perestroika. Yeah, spelled right there, guys. You guys don't spell glasnost and perestroika? Come on. Glasnost meant openness and transparency. The basic idea was that Gorbachev was hoping to liberalize or create openness in his government. So the idea was to make the government more what? Or less what? Make it less secretive, less oppressive. That was the basic idea. Was to make the government less oppressive, less secretive. That was the basic idea behind glasnost. Perestroika was the idea that we had to restructure the government and the economy. Because in reality, folks, was communism working? No, it wasn't. It just wasn't working. It's inefficient. So perestroika was reconstruction or restructuring the government and the economy. So restructuring the government and the economy. So glasnost was about more openness and transparency in the government. Perestroika is about restructuring the economy and the government. So is this a big opportunity for America to end the Cold War? Yeah, and Gorbachev might be the guy to do it. And so we have Mikhail Gorbachev, leader of Russia, and he says he wants to make the world better. And so Reagan calls him out on it. He says, okay, you want to make the world better? I want to see you do that. So Reagan, at the Berlin Wall speech and Brandenburg Gate, I want you guys to write the title of this, and then I'm going to go ahead and play the video. This video is not playing. I got to play it through something else. I'll put it back up in a sec.
Today I say, as long as this gate is closed, as long as this sky of a wall is permitted to stand, it is not the German question alone that remains open, but the question of freedom for all mankind. In the 1950s, Khrushchev predicted, "We will bury you." But in the West today, we see a free world that has achieved a level of prosperity and well-being unprecedented in all of human history. In the communist world, we see failure. There is one sign the Soviets can make that will be unmistakable: that we advance dramatically the cause of freedom and peace. General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
That was a big deal because he was calling Gorbachev out on that. If you really want to liberalize and end this Cold War, then what is the biggest symbol of the Cold War in the world? The Berlin Wall. And if you mean what you say, then tear down this wall. Because what was happening is they were just like tearing holes. I was like, oh, maybe we'll slowly open the wall. They said, why slowly open it? Just tear it down. Open this door. And so now did Gorbachev have a choice here? He had a choice. Now he was going to decide whether or not he was actually going to go ahead and say what he was doing, or do what he was saying he was going to do, or backpedal on that. But we had an opportunity, and were we going to try to take that? Yeah, we want to say, Gorbachev, if you're serious, we're willing to wait at this wall and shake your hand when you open that door. But we want to take advantage of this opportunity. Tear down this wall. Well, in the election of 1988, the Republicans nominate George H.W. Bush And the Democrats nominate Michael Dukakis. So again, the Republicans nominate George H.W. Bush, and the Democrats nominate Michael Dukakis. Cool. And in this election, George H.W. Bush will win 426 to 111. Pretty much his platform is read my lips, no new taxes. That's what he said. Read my lips. Read my lips. No new taxes. That's what he said. That was his platform. Also, he was Reagan's vice president, so that definitely helped. And he was a former director of the CIA, so he had a lot of international policies going behind him. Anyway, he becomes the 41st president of the United States, George Herbert Walker Bush, 1988 to 1992. Sorry, from 92 to 88. He gives us promise, read my lips, no new taxes. For some reason, it's silent. But again, you have to read his lips then. No new, that's his wife. He says, read my lips, no new taxes. And then, by the way, he raised taxes. So he was elected on governor, read my lips, no new taxes. And then when he became president, I got to raise taxes, guys. I didn't realize that was going to be something I would have to do. So he lied, whatever. And then he also passes the American with Disabilities Act. This is actually a pretty important act. You know how a lot of places now have like handicap sections and they have like ramps for the handicapped? There's Braille on our school doors, whatever else. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires that all public facilities accommodate for the disabled. Is that pretty important? Yeah. Most definitely. That's why today you go to the ATM machine, you can plug in headphones for what? The hearing impaired, right? Americans with all public facilities had to have accommodations for Americans with disabilities. That's the basic argument there. Cool. Again, all public facilities had to have accommodations for Americans with disabilities. So again, remember the little theater? It used to not have that ramp on the side. And then in 88 to 92, when the ADA was passed, we started to have ramps, those kind of things, wheelchair accessible stuff, etc., etc. Eventually, George W. Bush, as president, will watch the Berlin Wall fall. And this is one of the biggest deals. If the Berlin Wall falls, folks, what's soon to happen thereafter? The Cold War will fall, as will the Soviet Union. So here's a quick clip of the Berlin Wall.
From ABC,
this is a big deal, folks.
News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Just write and then watch.
From the Berlin Wall specifically, take a look at them. They've been there since last night. They are here in the thousands. They are here in the tens of thousands. Occasionally they shout, Die Mauer muss weg, the wall must go. Thousands and thousands of West Germans come to make the point that the wall has suddenly become irrelevant. Something you should concede almost a party on. How do you measure such an astonishing moment in history? The East German government said tonight they were going to make more openings in the wall, at least a dozen more. Put bulldozers right through the wall so that more people could cross to the west. The East German communist leadership tonight said there'd be a new election law guaranteeing secret elections which the rest of the world could monitor. And only 24 hours after East Germans were told they could go anywhere, anytime, the Soviet Union said that was a sensible move.
Thousands of East Germans came across the border today, perhaps more than 100,000, so many that border police lost count.
And at every border crossing, thousands of West Germans there to say welcome. Some of the really good news today was the German government. While thousands and thousands came to look, even gape at this showcase of capitalism, the vast majority said they would be going back. The simple act of giving people the freedom to travel may have convinced these Germans they need not take flight whenever the door opens just a fraction. It has been an astonishing day. Hour after hour, all through today, thousands and thousands of West Germans have come to the wall to see for themselves.
Is it kind of a big deal if they're standing on that wall? What would have happened 20 years prior? They would have been shot. And here are those German guards that would have shot them before.
Finally, after all these years, to say in person what they think of the East German border guards. Or try to make friends. Suddenly a flashback to what it was like for so long. A young man in the East makes a dash for the wall. They catch him and take him away. Presumably he should have used a legal border crossing. Only a couple of years ago, he might have been shot. Not today. Today it was possible to have a dialogue. Your government seems to be changing every day. Where do you think it's going? That's the government's problem, he says. Mine. Such an astonishing moment in history.
Isn't that crazy? Imagine it's like 20 years before, all those people would have been killed. Like every single one would have been shot to death. But because the Soviet Union is changing under Gorbachev, is East Germany changing too? And this is a massive change. And the people said, look, if you're just going to open small holes in the Berlin Wall, why even do that? Why not just what? Tear the whole thing down. And so this was a task, and people began. And the biggest fear for East Berlin was, well, if we open it, what's going to happen? Everyone's going to leave. But it turned out what?
They left, they came back.
They left, but they came back because they realized if we have the freedom to move and come back, will we then come back? I mean, we left because you didn't give us a choice. Now that we have a choice, we can say, this is a home where I want to be, not a home that I'm afraid of being in. And so the fall of the Berlin Wall was a huge change to the Cold War. And this really is, again, part of that beginning to the end. Once the Berlin falls, folks, what's next to fall? The Soviet Union. So following that, folks, the Soviet Union will fall. I remember watching this on TV, guys. I remember seeing this on TV. Not this exact news report, but I remember I wasn't that old. I was like 4 or 5, but I remember my parents making a huge deal about this.
The news from IDN.
Gorbachev, the last president of the Soviet Union, resigns. The red flag of communism is lowered over the Kremlin. Yeltsin takes control of 30,000 Soviet nuclear weapons.
He will be the president of Russia.
World leaders pay tribute to Gorbachev's achievements. Good evening. The red flag came down over the Kremlin tonight as President Gorbachev resigned and brought to an end 7 decades of communist rule in the Soviet Union. Right to the last, Mr. Gorbachev said he was unhappy at the breakup country, but he pledged to do everything he could for the new Commonwealth of Independent Republics. The Russian President, Boris Yeltsin, now has his finger on the nuclear button. We have 2 reports from Moscow on the final hours of the Soviet Union.
As Mikhail Gorbachev resigned, the Soviet and Russian flags still fluttered side by side above the Kremlin. But Mr. Gorbachev finally brought the curtain down on the Soviet Union and his own extraordinary career.
Compatriots, due to the situation which has evolved as a result of independent states, I hereby discontinue my activities at the post of President of the USSR.
So again, he resigns as leader of the USSR and saying from this point on, the Soviet Union will no longer exist. And he does it on live TV, so everyone's watching this and everyone thinks, oh my God, that's it. That was the end of the Cold War. It didn't end with a big bluster. It didn't end with some fanfare. It was, and guys, at midnight tonight, that's it. The Soviet Union is over. And that was a big deal for a lot of people because the country that we feared forever after 70 years just no longer existed soon after. One of the people always ask, though, why did they decide to collapse? And the reason why is that their economy could not compete with America's. I mean, it just could not. I mean, if the government told you exactly what you were allowed to eat, what you were allowed to wear, what you're allowed to, make, are the people going to be happy? Might the government run out of food sometimes, or, not have enough supplies? That's what happened. The government just could not keep up because communism is not efficient. It's just not. And so the people realized, if we don't fix this problem, then the Russian people will revolt against the Russian government. So we might as well change top down instead of a bloody revolution from bottom up. Does that make sense? And so they decided that communism does not work, and the Soviet Union fell. And that, folks, was the end of the Cold War. And again, it did not end with an atomic bomb. It did not end with a big bluster. It ended quietly, with the red flag slowly coming down, and all that was left was the new Russian flag. Yeah. I mean, again, a lot of it was so anticlimactic, but yet, isn't that a better way of ending it than a nuclear war? I mean, this is a better way to end the Soviet Union. Something else that George Bush did then as president is he fought the Persian Gulf War, which is the first Iraq war, which is sometimes known as Desert Storm or Desert Shield. Pretty much the reason why this happened is that Iraq invaded Kuwait. Whoops. It's argued that Iraq, who used to be an ally of America during the Iraq-Iran war, asked America for permission. Like, hey, is it cool if we invade Kuwait? And it's possible, or argued, that Donald Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense at the time, said, oh yeah, don't worry about it. That's a Middle Eastern issue. We're not going to get involved there. And then so Iraq invades Kuwait. America's like, what are you doing, Iraq? You can't do that. Oh, I guess we're going to have to go to war and take your country over now. I don't know why you keep invading other countries. That is not okay. And yet it's argued that we intentionally did this to take control of their oil, whatever else. So again, this is to prevent the invasion of Kuwait. Nonetheless, it's the first Iraq war. Once we drive Saddam Hussein, you guys should probably know the name Saddam Hussein if you don't already. Once we drive Saddam Hussein out of Iraq, out of Kuwait, they actually set all the oil wells on fire. So all the oil wells in Kuwait, they set on fire, which is why you have this massive 4-month fire that we can't put out. Because they didn't just light a forest. They lit just fuel, just millions of gallons of fuel that would just set on fire. And again, you just have smoke like that for just months, and we couldn't put it out. And so many people did get sick from this. And it's called Gulf War syndrome, because they likely inhaled a lot of the chemicals from the fires, whatever else, and many people got really, really sick from the Persian Gulf War. Questions there? In the election of 92, Bill Clinton is nominated by the Democrats. George H.W. Bush runs again. And Ross Perot, the Texas billionaire, tries his hand at politics, saying, I am a serious third-party candidate, and I feel that I have the ability to change American politics. Yeah, he was a billionaire, so he funded his own campaign. He ran again. Maybe he ran in the 96 election, not the 92 election. I don't remember. I think he ran both terms. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. They're not going to ask you about Ross Perot. In any case, Bill Clinton wins in 92, winning 370 to 168. Winning 370 to 168. G8 beating G.H.W. Bush. 370 to 168, making Bill Clinton the 42nd President of the United States, serving from 92 to 2000.
That's kind of cool how the last 3 presidents have all served 2 terms.
No.
Stability.
Clinton 2 terms, Bush 2 terms, Obama 2 terms.
Okay, 92 to 2000. Good so far? At some point, you guys were born here?
Yeah, 96.
And then you have the impeachment of Bill Clinton. Now, why was Bill Clinton impeached? Who can raise their hand and tell me why Bill Clinton was impeached? Why was he impeached? Who can tell me? Samantha? Ah. No. So what most people believe is that Bill Clinton was impeached because he had an affair. Is that a crime? No, it's not good. It's not moral. You're a bad husband. But is it a crime to cheat on your wife? Nor am I advocating cheating on your wife. I'm just saying it's not a crime. Now, why did he get impeached then? He lied about it under oath. And what do you call it when you lie under oath? Starts with the P. He committed, guys quiet, perjury. Perjury is when you lie under oath. You know when you say, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? Yeah. And then you promise to tell the truth, and then you lie? That is a crime. That is perjury. And you can't do that. So you're going to see two clips right here. Okay? You're going to see the first clip where he was being investigated, and he said, no, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. And then he's going to apologize thereafter. Shh. Here you go.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Ms. Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman. That's what he said. Now, he's under oath. Okay? So, did he lie? Now, he's saying, no, I didn't. Here's his answer.
I take responsibility for all my actions, both public and private. And that is why I'm speaking to you tonight. As you know, in a deposition in January, I was asked questions about my relationship with Monica Lewinsky. While my answers were legally accurate, I did not volunteer information.
So, you asked me if I had sexual relations with that woman. And I didn't have sexual relations. We didn't have sex. Aha! Because what you asked me was, did we have sexual relations? And we did not have sex. Now, did we do sexual things? You didn't ask me that. So, technically, I did not lie. But his argument was, I did not commit perjury. You asked if I had a sexual relationship. Well, I didn't. I mean, did I still cheat on my wife? Yeah, but you didn't ask me about the other things. You just said sex. And so, folks, ultimately the jury did not impeach him, right? Because was this for real reasons or political reasons? Political reasons. Did they want to weaken the president? This is why they did this. But ultimately it was for political reasons, not because he was a bad president. And can you be a bad president but be a bad husband? Sure you can. Look at JFK. He cheated on his wife all the time. And yet arguably he was a good president. It just depends. One of the good things he did do is he created NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which was a agreement between what three countries? Canada, U.S., and Mexico? So, well, yeah, but this is Mexico, that's Canada, and that's the U.S. Did you guys just assume that it was the other way around? Why would you? Why is the guy in the sombrero Mexico again? No. Uncle Sam, that's Steve. I don't know what you're talking about. Racists, every one of you. Don't make assumptions. But yes, the basic idea behind NAFTA was that these countries could trade with each other and not have to worry about what? What do you call it when you're trading with each other, but not? They don't have to worry about tariffs. It's a tariff-free zone. Does that make sense to everyone? It's a tariff-free zone. It's free trade because are we going to put tariffs on each other's goods? No. So again, the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, they're doing pretty well for themselves.
Do they still have that now?
It still exists today. Now, many people argue that this has not been good for America, Mexico, or Canada. I think it just depends on who you talk to. There are good and bad reasons for NAFTA. It kind of just depends. But yeah. It has and it hasn't. I mean, I definitely think that there's benefits to NAFTA. Some sectors benefit, others don't, which is why it's hard to say is it good overall. I would say it's good overall, but some sectors do get affected negatively. The election of 2000, shh, quiet down, folks. In the election of 2000, new millennium, the Democrats nominate Al Gore, and the Republicans nominate George W. Bush, former governor of Texas. Al Gore, former vice president. Here's George Bush, and here's your book picture. Just kidding. Cool. This is a very contested election, folks, because if you notice, Al Gore actually won the popular vote, but he lost the electoral vote by 5. And all of this comes down to the scandal in Florida. You guys remember this a little bit? Yeah. The basic idea was that at midnight, newspapers and TV stations were calling it for Bush, and then Gore, and then Bush, and then Gore, kept on going back and forth. Votes weren't being counted. There were long lines. They had these punch hole ballots, and then the punch holes were falling out, and then so they made mistakes. They weren't counting those. It became a huge issue. It actually went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ruled in one of the most ridiculous decisions. They said, in this one instance only, we will not count the votes in the state of Florida. The Supreme Court has never done that before. To say, in this one election, this case only affects this one moment in time. Because, is that what the Supreme Court does, is make decisions for that one moment? They make overarching decisions that affect all of time, right? But in this one case, it's argued that there was some shady things going on. But nonetheless, Al Gore loses despite winning the popular vote by 500,000 votes. He still, by 500,000, he still loses the election by 5 electoral votes. Yes? One district decided to vote because they felt that this was shenanigans. In any case, folks, George Bush becomes the 43rd president of the United States, serving from 2000 to 2000. I think it was 4 weeks after the election, and we still didn't have a president, guys. I mean, it was a really long time. After the election was over, there were Supreme Court cases and filings and motions. We can keep counting. No, we can't keep counting. We can keep counting. We can't keep counting. There were fights, and people were arguing, and they would hire people to make it look like people were rioting. It was politics at its worst. But George W. Bush wins. Of course, September 11th happens. I was a junior in high school, and I was just coming to school for my 0-period AP bio class. My dad comes to pick us up after work. He drives us to school, and as he tells us a quick turn on the radio, a plane hit the Twin Towers, and in my AP bio class that morning, watched as the Twin Towers fell. And it was a pretty shocking moment in American history for me, because I thought, holy crap. And we all thought America was under attack and it was going to be a big deal. It has been a big deal since. It's been a defining moment of politics for me as a young American for quite some time now. But that happens. As a result of the September 11th attacks, folks, the war on terror begins, focusing on both Iraq and Afghanistan. Iraq we're no longer in. We pulled out of Iraq about 3-4 years ago. Afghanistan we're expected to pull out by next year. It's called, pretty much it's Afghanistanization. We're going to turn the war over to Afghanistan. That sounds a lot like what? Vietnam. A lot of the people coming back from the war are protesting the war is bad. That sounds a lot like what? Vietnam. We want to pull out of the war even though we won't clearly win anything. What is that like? Vietnam. There are so many parallels between the Afghanistan war and the Vietnam War. So many. It's kind of ridiculous. In the election of 2008, The Republicans nominate John McCain, and the Democrats nominate Barack Hussein Obama.
We started it like, oh my God.
Obama wins the election. I forgot to put in the map for the electoral map, making Barack Obama the 44th President of the United States, serving from 2008 to the present. 2008 to the present. And then this morning I woke up and I went to McDonald's. That is... I had 2 sausage egg McMuffins and a large iced caramel mocha, non-fat, no whip. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it. All of modern history. The 1500s to 2000. So guys, that's the end of new content. Now begins the process of making sure you go back and you remember all 500 plus years. And that will be an interesting task to take on. So, before we do that, thank you all for listening at home, and that's the end of U.S. history.